Again, dealing with subsidy. Regarding subsidy payments being paid only when PSPRS office receives the notification, what happens with the 1 month or 2 month that the retiree has to choose COBRA going back to retirement date? So it sounds like this is kind of a retroactive payment where we didn't get the information prior to us initiating their retirees' premium withholdings and subsidies attached. How would we address that, Stacy?
If we receive the application or the information 30 days after they've been retired in our own COBRA, we will allow that and we'll pay it retroactively. But if it's past that, then no, we will not. We will start upon the time that we receive the application.
Okay, so if it's within a 30-day time frame, we would potentially do a retroactive payment. But anything outside of that, if you waited 3 to 4 months and then decided to tell us that you have a retiree who's taking coverage and we need to start withholding premiums, we will only pay subsidy and withhold premiums from that point going forward. Thank you. Okay, and a question on the alternate contributions. What were the percentages? So it sounds like someone maybe missed out on hearing all the alternate contribution rates. I'll defer that to Tracy. What is the current alternate contribution rates for all 3 of our plans?
Elected officials is 14.47. Corrections is 6%, which is the minimum. And public safety is 10.51.
So those would be the rates that you as the employer would be responsible for paying starting July 20th of this year for any retiree that is retired from the plan and has subsequently been reemployed into a position that would normally be contributing to that same plan, if that makes sense.
And they should be getting transmittals.
And we will, as part of the regular transmittals, we'll providing those transmittals for those particular individuals. Next question here. What is the status of permanent benefit increases for July 1 of this year and July 12 for all 3 plans? And I, again, will defer that to Tracy.
For July 1 of 2011, public safety will receive a full 4% COLA, and I believe it is $152.84. The corrections officers and the elected officials plans is a little bit more tenuous. I believe we will be paying a 1% COLA for elected officials and a 2% COLA for the corrections officers plan eligible retirees on in the July pension payment. If any adjustments have to be made for the elected officials and the corrections officers, those adjustments will probably be paid out in the October pension, unless we can get to it sooner, because we have to have some calculations run to see how much is available to pay and what the rest of the payment will be. That's kind of the tentative plan right now going forward. As far as July 1 of 2012, it all depends on what happens with this fiscal year return and what's remaining in it after the payment of this COLA. So we're not sure what the 2012 will be.
Yeah.
Too many moving parts right now.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, question for Corp and public safety. If a member reaches 25 years of service but is not yet 52.5 years of age and terminates employment, can he begin receiving a pension once he reaches age 52.5? And I think I addressed that earlier in the presentation, but yes, if you have an individual who has the service requirement but not the age requirement, they can, potentially if they terminate, they could come back to you as the local board to put in application, or they should be coming back to you as the local board to put in their application for their normal retirement once they meet the age requirement necessary to truly be eligible for normal retirement. And again, that's specifically for our new hires that are hired on or after January 1st of 2012. Next question, with the PSPRS contribution for employees increasing, are the employer contribution rates decreasing? Great question, and again, I will defer that one to Tracy, our administrator.
The simple answer is no. The employer rates are not decreasing as a result of the employee rates increasing. And we will be sending our data for the actuarial valuations probably in July and determine what the new contribution rates will be for the employers, but they will not be decreasing.
All right. Thank you. All right. Could an employee purchase 60 months of prior public and 60 months of military, or are the total purchase limits to a maximum of 60 months combined? And I would defer that one to, who would like to jump in and answer that question? I guess I should ask on our board. I guess I will. Go ahead, Ron. Ron, jump in.
You can still buy a total of 10 years total.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy 5 military, you can buy 5 other, and that's it.
Yep. It's not a combined. It's 60 months separately. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, another question. Suppose an individual is retired under public safety. Here we go with hypotheticals. We may or may not be able to answer this one. But suppose an individual is retired under public safety, working in public safety position, and enrolled under ASRS. Is the employer responsible for paying the ACR? In a nutshell, yes. Because regardless of what you as the employer has decided for that particular position, if that position does have the ability to contribute to ASRS, because based upon your guys' 218 agreements, you could potentially put public safety positions in there. You can potentially put court positions in there, or elected official positions under ASRS. Regardless of that fact, if you have done so and made that decision, traditionally that position would be contributing under R3 plans. And so as such, if you hire a retiree from that plan into that position, you are still required to pay that ACR in addition to that contribution to ASRS that you would be contributing there. Alrighty, another ACR question. It's basically the same thing, dealing with the ASRS issue. Yes, you would be still responsible for paying that ACR if you are having them contribute to ASRS, because again, you have to look at it as under normal circumstances, that position that is being filled by that retiree, would they be covered and be contributing to public safety, corrections officers, or elected officials? If your answer is yes to that, then you should be paying the ACR. Next question. After January 1st, 2012, does the employer continue to contribute to PSPRS for an employee in the DROP program? Well, I think we addressed that in the PowerPoint presentation, but I will defer that to Ron. Ron, we have after January 1st, 2012, is an employee going to continue to contribute to PSPRS if they're in DROP? When and why would that occur?
I think I heard the question being, is the employer going to continue to pay? The employer will not continue to pay. It's not going to be any change in the employer contribution, to my understanding, in the current DROP or the new DROP going into effect after the 1st of next year. Employer will not pay. Only the employee will continue to begin paying.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so it's strictly just the employee who falls under that provision if they have to, if they're that individual who has less than 20 years of credited service after January 1st of 2012 and participates in the DROP program. It's exclusively employee contribution.
And if I can add, the employer, I think one of the reasons they did that is because the employer average contribution rate currently by the last actuarial in PSPRS was approximately, I think it's right on the nose, 21.97%. So employers are already paying quite a high rate to begin with. So adding to their contribution or making them pay for a drop, they felt was a little bit, would have been a little bit too much.
Okay. Question on the alternate contribution rate. We stated that the rate for PSPRS is 10.51%. Does that change in the new fiscal years? If so, do we know when that will be? And I would state that the alternate contribution rates do change each fiscal year based upon our actuarial evaluations. Because we've already completed our actuarials for this upcoming fiscal year, that rate starting July 1 for public safety is at 10.51, but starting next July 1, that percentage may change for all three of our plans based upon the actuarials that will be conducted for the fiscal year end that ends June 20th or June 30th of this year. Here's another spin, I guess, to the question on the ACR. We have a police officer who retired from PSPRS from another entity, so you didn't retire from this particular employer, and is now employed by them and is subsequently contributing to ASRS. Do we still have to pay alternate contribution to PSPRS? Yes. Regardless of where that retiree retired from, the language in the statutes will read basically that if you as an employer are re-employing a PSPRS retiree, regardless of whether they retired from you or another entity or another employer, you are responsible for that ACR if that position traditionally contributes to our plan. Next question. Does credited service include purchase service as it relates to the drop provisions?
Yes.
Thank you, Ron. Answer to that is yes. Quick and simple. I like quick and simple answers. The question again, question was, does credited service include purchase service as it relates to the drop provisions? And again, the answer to that is yes. Next question. When the ACR is effective for retired PSPRS members who return to work in a PSPRS covered position, we've addressed this question. Again, a lot of questions on the ACR. Starting July 20th of 2011, this upcoming July, if you have those retirees who fall under the provisions that we've highlighted, you would be responsible as the employer to pay the ACR.
That includes contractors too.
Yes, and it includes, and the language does include whether or not you actually are employing them as an employee or a contractor. So if you have them as a contractor, that doesn't prevent you from not having to pay the ACR. You still are responsible for that because, again, it's all about whether or not that position should be filled by an active contributing member. And if it normally is and you're doing it with a retiree, a contractor, whatever, you have to pay ACR. There's a question here that I think is we won't be able to answer specifically because it's by individual employer, but the question is what is the employer percentage for the new fiscal year? Each employer group who participates in our plan has their own individual actuarials completed. So the percentage that you as employer have to contribute has already been established and submitted to you all. I believe we sent out our actuarials back in November of last year to determine what your contribution rate is as an employer for this upcoming fiscal year. If you don't have that available or you need that information, you can actually email me and I'll be more than happy to provide you a copy of your most recent actuarial so that you can figure out what your contribution rate will be come July. And that does change each and every year.